Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Breacher. Welcome to the Discipline Priest Guide for Warlords of Draenor. My god, I expect, and I have seen many people hoping or probably thinking that I'm going to give this thing a bad rap. It is known throughout the community as a newbie spec, scrubby spec, something along those lines, but absolutely incorrect. Massively wrong. This is one of the most unique specs in the game. It is one of the most unique and interesting specs in the game. It absolutely is. Its playstyle is dissimilar to everything else. If you were going to switch from, say, a Holy Priest to a Disc Priest, you're not going to be able to go, oh, okay, this totally makes sense to me, because it plays entirely different. It plays entirely different to every other healer. The Paladins come close in some regards, but not quite. Not quite up to the scale that the Disc Priest actually plays. So hopefully today I can, one, teach you not to walk into this thing thinking you're going to win the day and be an ultimate badass, and also teach you what the kind of things you should be looking for in order to really respect what the Disc Priest brings to the table. The Disc Priest works along the lines of absorbs, okay? It's about absorbs, mainly Power Word Shield. Power Word Shield is going to be your cannon. It's going to be your absolute God Ray cannon, Hammer of the Gods, Light of Dawn, whatever you want to call it. It is the beefcake that is going to allow you to disseminate encounters and become a godsend. Why do people consider it a newbie spec? Why is that? Mainly because you can have good results with a Disc Priest by playing it incorrectly. And in that respect, yes, there is newbie aspects of it. The Disc Priest works along the lines of being prepared. Instead of healing damage, we don't do that. We don't heal damage. We don't really do that. What we do is prevent damage. We look at an encounter, we say, what are you going to throw at me, boss? What are you giving my raid? You're giving them stone breaths, you're giving them demolitions. What are you doing? Okay, cool. I'm going to stem that tide with my shields. Okay, I'm going to put this shield on and the tide rushes through and my guys are going to be absolutely safe. In order to do that, you need to be very, very prepared. If you want to be a good Disc Priest, you need to not only know, like a normal healer will know when this damage is coming 3 or 4 seconds before it happens, so they can start casting their 3 or 4 second spell so it lands as that damage is met. A Disc Priest, however, has to bear in mind how long his shield lasts. Okay? This shield lasts a long, long time. 15 seconds. In order to start preparing your raid for that incoming damage, you need to be thinking 15 seconds ahead of that damage to start bubbling your raid, yeah? You need to be thinking that far ahead of what is about to happen. And if you do that correctly, my god, do you actually change the entire wave in an encounter. You can trivialize things with a good Disc Priest who is thinking 15 seconds ahead of the game. 15 seconds ahead. Which means you don't look at your raid frames in the same way other healers do. You don't look at people losing health and think, what am I going to do here? Because that's not your job. Now that comes with consequences. One, you can take an encounter, understand what's going to happen, think 15 seconds ahead, and completely change how that damage is dealt with. On the other hand, you can be in the situation where the raid is leaking. And the raid is leaking health, and you are looking at it as a healer, and in many ways the Disc Priest feels powerless. Although it's not, you are essentially trying to plug a hole with a finger and it's still leaking out. Whereas the other healers, they can fill it up completely. They can use things like Revival, Tranquilities, Divine Hymns to actually bring that raid back to life. Whereas the Disc Priest can often feel like it's stemming the tide and not really doing the right job. So in order to prevent that, a Disc Priest has to accept that there are cons and accept that they work in a perfect symbiosis with other healers and their raid. I would imagine that in most guilds, a good Disc Priest will be the first person to start shouting and crying when people do things wrong. If Group A is supposed to soak Inferno Slash and Group B does it, that Disc Priest is going to be super pissed because he prepared 15 seconds in advance for that group to take it and bubbled them appropriately, started shielding all that group, and then they didn't take that damage. All that effort, all that time that's more than most of the healers are having to put into the game is completely wasted. Absolutely wasted. And they rely on the other healers to actually bring the health of the group up as the Disc Priest prevent them taking more damage. Okay? So it's a totally different, unique, and interesting style of play. And I have a newfound respect for the Disc Priest. I really do. So let's look at the talents to see how they work, and then we'll go over this playstyle and how you kind of make it work. At level 15, Desperate Prayer is pretty much the only choice for priests. a PvE healing priest, by the way. Angelic Bulwark, just not enough for Spectral Guise, isn't really going to hit the mark. At level 30, because you're shielding so much, I really like Body and Soul. As we are looking towards different things as a Disc Priest, we're not looking at the raid taking damage, we're looking at preventing things, we're looking 15 seconds ahead. It becomes more important, at least for me, to pay attention to the things and messages that pop up over people's heads. I have X thing. And I often find myself, this is one of the only healing classes, which is not correct, by the way, most people should do this, is use a mouse over for my power word shield, is because I can see Billy over here. Oh, look, Billy's got debuff, and I give him a shield to go and get extra body and soul and get into position. You look at things like absorbing the impaling strikes, all that kind of stuff. You can get them into position much quicker. And every time you shield someone, they get a movement speed increase, which is always handy. Angelic Feather is great, but as you're firing so many shields, I tend to prefer body and soul. A lot of people will argue either or. It doesn't matter, whichever you prefer. At level 45, we kind of have to bring into here evangelism. This is something you need to know about, evangelism. When you deal direct damage with Penance, Smite, or Power Word Solace, and if you don't have Solace, it says Holy Fire, you gain Evangelism. It stacks up to 5 times. It lasts for 20 seconds and consumed by Archangel to increase healing done. Archangel increases your healing done by 25%. 25%! That is enormous. Absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. One of the key things you'll need to learn about your Disc Priest is how to manage Archangel properly. At a newbie level, you'll simply be using Archangel on cooldown. As you get better, you'll start considering things like, how long till my next Archangel? It's got 30-second cooldown. Is there something major going to happen in between that time period? Do I need that 25% bonus to my healing and my shields before then? Can I activate it now because it lasts 18 seconds and then I can combine it with the fact that I have 15 seconds to prepare for this in order to make this work? All this is what's going through your mind as a Disc Priest. Power Word Solace in the level 45 is your mana return talent, yeah? It's your mana conservation talent or mana return. At certain haste levels, Mindbender actually gives more mana back. The problem is, Power Word Solace fits really nicely into generating evangelism. Not only do you keep on top of that anyway, but it gives you the evangelism, and it works nicely in between Archangel cooldowns to reach 5 stacks again. That is your goal. It's not to reach 5 stacks of evangelism as quickly as humanly possible, it's to reach them within a 30-second window. Power Word Solace slots nicely into that window to allow you to keep generating them, and it means you only need a couple of offensive penances. We want to avoid Smite, it's fucking shit. We want to avoid that in order to get to our 5 stacks each time we want to use Archangel. So although Mindbender right return mana, you'll quickly notice as a Disc Priest, mana not that big of a fucking deal. Really isn't. Mana not that big of a deal. So if you're at the haste levels where Mindbender's going to give you more mana back, you probably don't need it. But make that decision on your own. At level 60, doesn't matter. Level 75. Power Infusion is generally what people go for, because a lot of your spells are benefited by haste, yeah? It reduces the mana costs and offsets that by giving you more haste. Very nice cooldown. Twist of Fate, however, is also really good. There are lots of fights, especially as you move up to Mythic, where people drop really low, below 35% health, and you will heal them. Really low. So you can pick and choose. Most people go with Power Infusion, totally understandable. But unfortunately, Spirit Shell, kind of sad, doesn't really get a look in, so you want to pick one of these two. Level 90, Cascade is realistically your only choice. Divine Star has too much requirement, and Halo requires you to like run away and get distance from people to get maximum effect. Cascade has none of those issues. Really fucking nice. And unfortunately, at level 100, as much as people like Clarity of Will, which is a stacking absorb, Words of Mending is where you're going because you will be using your cannon, your powered shield, which means lots and lots of Words of Mending. Yeah, Words of Mending every shield, so you start firing these off. Prayer of Mending is pretty crap. Don't get me wrong, Prayer of Mending's pretty crap, but you'll get so many of them out for free throughout the encounter that it's generally the way to go. With glyphs, Glyph of Penance is kind of a must in my opinion. Glyph of Penance, so you can move around and cast Penance. It does increase the mana cost, but remember the mana cost isn't really a big deal. Glyph of Weakened Soul, a must have. A must have. You'll be firing shields out all the time, especially on the tanks. The quicker you can get new shields up, the quicker you're dropping bombs. Your shields, even in low B gear, will be up to like 100,000 absorb. You want to be able to put them out as much as possible. Get this glyph. Glyph of Holy Fire, increase the range of Holy Fire Smite and Power Word Solace. Yeah? As a healer, we're not following the tanks around it and moving the mobs all the goddamn time. That extra range can come in very, very handy while we're doing all this kind of stuff, yeah? So bear in mind that glyph is also kind of a must-have. and your other ones, pick whatever you like. Pick whatever you like. So how does this thing play? It's tricky. It's not easy to describe. As we're looking at, you're looking 15 seconds ahead all the time as a disc priest. You need to be looking 15 seconds ahead and getting into that mindset. In that 15-second window, though, especially if you have things like Archangel up, which gives you that 25% bonus, you need to be spamming bubbles, realistically. You need to be bubbling as many people as possible, and then using your Cascade. Mixing in these spells, okay? In the meantime, and there is some in the meantime, you need to be thinking about your evangelism. You need to be thinking about your Power Word Solace. Have some decent notification that your Power Word Solace is up. Keep on top of it, because it's going to return huge amounts of mana. You then need to pick and choose what you're going to do with your penance. Is your penance going to be offensive, in which case it gives you evangelism, or are you going to have to use it defensively, which won't give you evangelism? You need to pick and choose all the time what's going to happen with those, yeah? You need to decide. You can see here, this penance doesn't give you any evangelism, because you want to be able to use Archangel when you need it, and preferably pretty regularly. So you need to be picking and choosing that all in the meantime. If you're in a situation where there's nothing else to do, let's talk about Divine Aegis. Yes, Powered Shield gives you a big absorb, but so does Divine Aegis. Critical heals and multi-strikes create a protective shield on the target, absorbing 100% of the amount healed, instead of healing for twice as much. 100%. These are extra absorbs. Now you have a gift as a Disc Priest. Absorbs can't be sniped. Once you put your shield on someone, that is the first thing to go. No one can heal and take that away. It is a gift you must respect. So Divine Aegis gives you an extra chance of absorb. This flows really nicely with Archangel. Archangel, again, our most important spell. I'm going to use Smite here just to build up the stacks quickly. When we pop Archangel, you can see it'll pop up and it's like, oh, Archangel's ready to go, Preacher. Do something with it. When I use it, I gain a new buff. Okay, it's called Empowered Archangel. Your next Prayer of Healing or Flash Heal that you cast after activating Archangel has a 100% chance to be a critical strike. Now look how long this fucking buff lasts, guys. So many times I see people get the buff and they're like, oh, I must get rid of it. I must do something with this. You don't. You have ages. But the thing is, it's 100% crit, which means you're giving people Divine Aegis. Yeah? 20,000 extra absorb on me. Now, ideally, you do want to use that with Prayer of Healing, because it obviously affects way more people. But if you have to use that on a flash heal for the tanks, that's fine too. Just bear in mind that you have this extra buff that you need to be aware of, and you don't need to rush it to get rid of it. You don't need to go, oh, I've got this buff, I need to get rid of it. It lasts absolutely ages. 30 seconds, you have to decide what you want to do with it. What do I want to do with this? I could leave it. I know that this Stone Breath or Demolish is coming, so I'm going to stick this Prayer of Healing on me. That's an extra 100,000 absorb or whatever on absolutely everybody in my group. It's an amazing spell, and you need to be aware of it to make good use of it. So people are probably going to think about Holy Nova. As an early mention about Holy Nova, it's fallen way by the wayside due to the absolutely absurd power of Power Word Shield, so don't worry about it too much. Remember, your job as a Disc Priest is not really to heal the group. Okay? In 5-mans, you have to do that. But in a raid, you symbiotically exist with the other healers. Your job is to prevent damage. In all that downtime, you have to be thinking about stacking evangelism, refreshing shields, and looking towards the future. When you have the downtime, when you have a period of time to look around, check out who's got weakened soul, who's likely to take damage next, and start casting Power Word Shield on them. Some notes as well. Sad things like heal tend not to get a look in. The spell is just kind of shitty for a Disc Priest to be spamming it. You can do way more important things. Flash heal is what's going to start separating you apart to get some nice big instant savior heals. We don't really have them as Disc. You can stick a shield on somebody who's about to die and hope that somebody else heals them, but your flash heal is there to be used. Pain suppression, amazing. Yeah, 40% damage reduction, absolutely crazy. Lasts for 8 seconds. And of course the good old Power Word Barrier. Find when to use it and to use it effectively. The titty shield is immense. Now, this all sounds kind of serious. So what we'll do is we'll jump into a raid. We'll see all this in action. And you'll see what I'm talking about with the preparation and stemming the tide and all that. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Please treat this thing with respect. It deserves it. All right, bye-bye.